Hey guys, on this episode, I get to sit down with the wonderful Catie Voglio, Marketing and Media Manager for the Palm Springs Animal Shelter. Check it out.
So you work at the animal shelter. How long have you been there?
I started volunteering in 2017, so I didn't initially work there.
Oh, okay, so you're just volunteering.
Yeah, I was volunteering. I had moved into town and I had no friends. I didn't know anyone. And I said,
Where are you coming from?
or I was coming from North Carolina at the time.
Okay.
My husband's in the military, so we got stationed out here. And I went, oof, this is this is different.
So did you guys get stationed up here in 29 Palms?
In 29 Palms, right? And I work. It's me and him, and I'm a worker. Like, I'm not.
You can't stay still.
No. So I said, listen, we need to be in between. So Yucca Valley's in between. We moved to Yucca, and he would drive to the base, and I was headed out here. But when I first moved out here, I couldn't really identify a job. So.
And then you're trying to fit in too, right? You're like trying to figure out
What's the scene?
Right.
What's the scene? You know, I was living in a beach town in North Carolina, so literally this was the polar opposite of that.
Wow, I can't even imagine such a different world, you know.
And before that, I moved down from New York. So I moved from the Northeast to the South across to the desert. So
you've been picking up a little bit of accents from all over.
All over. I mean, when I go home, the New York comes out a little more, and things get a little a little deeper. And then in the South, I started picking up an accent, and then out here, I think it all kind of melds together, and you just, I don't know, you figure out how to fit in.
But that makes you cultured though.
Yeah.
Do they call you like Cali girl now? You go back?
No.
Like
I go visit my family, and they greet me with bagels and pasta, and it feels good to be home when I get there. Yeah.
So you got into the Palm Springs Animal Shelter as a volunteer, and how'd they greet you? How'd they bring you in? Is very receptive to the energy you were bringing in?
Yeah, I think I was younger than the normal person that goes to volunteer there.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah.
For sure. It took me a minute to figure Palm Springs out. I kind of got my grip on Yucca Valley.
Oh,
and
but it's still a different world.
So different. Yeah. It was a lot of people who were retired, and they were looking to do things with their time that was constructive, which I totally respect. And I was looking to do things with my time that was constructive, but it was because I was in between jobs and trying to figure out where to fit in and where to look for a job.
So you went to school. You went to a university. Yeah, you got
I have a degree.
In
art management.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah. So I actually went to community college first, got a 2-year degree. I didn't want student loans.
Yeah.
So I lived at home. I commuted to school. And then once I got my associate's degree in New York, you get automatic acceptance into any state university, which is totally cool. I had the grades to get in either way, but I chose to go to an art school. It's called SUNY New Paltz. It's up in the mountains. And again, I just didn't want to take on the debt. So I was driving there from my house where I grew up about an hour north of New York City. And I was going to be an art teacher. And I kind of got into that and into the art classes. And I think, well, I showed up 10 minutes early for this. So I'm chronically early. You know, I really expect a lot from people, and I got to that art school, and kids were late to class. Not kids, we're adults, right? You're 18, 19, 20, 22, and I'm like, wait, I can commute 45 minutes and make it here and start on time.
So you felt like the environment wasn't meeting you.
It wasn't me.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, for sure. I loved it though. I loved the hiking and the rock climbing and everything that is that part of New York. Totally spoke to my soul, but the curriculum and the people were not what I was looking for. So I applied to a school. It's called SUNY Purchase. It's in Westchester. Westchester, New York is real fancy. Like, that's where everyone moves out of New York City once they have enough money. And
if you've made it, you've gone there.
You've gone there. You take you take the train in.
Is it too loud?
No, you're good.
You're fine.
It was falling. So you take the train into work. It's just big houses and a lot of money. So there's a really cool conservatory. College got there, went and applied to be an intern at the art museum, and it's the Neuberger Museum of Art. It was founded by
I've heard of that.
Have
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
So it was founded by Roy R. Neuberger, who is an old man who founded Neuberger Berman, one of the original banks in New York City, and him and one of the governors of New York made a deal that Roy could collect the art. And his whole thing, he thought it was so sad that Van Gogh died before he sold a piece of art.
Right. Yeah.
That he couldn't stand for that. So he bought art to make people famous, like to make artists make it.
Oh, right.
So like Rothko and Pollock and all of these painters.
He put them on.
He was like, I'm going to buy it. And we're going to make something of them. So his collection is massive and enormous and groundbreaking. And that's what I got to walk into to work when I was an intern there. Every day you walk up the stairs greeted by these like incredible works of art that you don't see anywhere else.
That's awesome.
It was great. And then, you're doing these house tours of penthouses in New York City where there's pieces that have never touched a museum, pieces that museums haven't seen. I got to go to Roy's apartment in the Pierre Hotel, and it was just, to be 21 and doing that was like cool.
So would something like that here in the desert like attract you to maybe shoot for that out here?
I definitely looked into the Palm Springs Art Museum when I moved out here. I was like, oh, maybe I'll get back into art. I've been in the South for a while. The South had very little to offer me, to be honest. I'm losing this.
You can
My head
if you can like if
there
you
we go.
if you
Okay.
Oh.
Sorry.
There we go.
There we go. Sorry, guys.
It looks good. Don't worry about it.
So the South had very little offer. I'll be straight up about it.
It's because, but you're also like comparing what you started with.
For
and, like,
sure.
Yeah.
I was like coming in hot, right? I was living a dream and I fell in love and followed that. And it just so happens that love was in the South, and that was less than ideal. But
right.
You know what? I made it work. Like, I wasn't going to let it bring me down. I made the best of my situation, and I love building things. I love building businesses. I helped someone open a gym. I helped another person. Well, then I moved on and helped a real estate agent build his agency. And then I worked in restaurants for a while. And
so you like to see stuff come from nothing to fruition.
Yeah, I love building people's ideas, and it doesn't necessarily have to be my idea. Like, I totally get when people want to make something better.
Right. So with that being said, in the Palm Springs animal shelter, you've been handling their marketing department.
Marketing and media.
For how long?
Since 2019, January 2019.
Okay. Because I have noticed a difference since you took it on. It's kind of changing that I guess stereotypes or like stigmas that Palm Springs is very high end, like who walks into these places. It's not it wasn't targeted for all the ages, and you're making it seem like everybody's welcome.
Yeah, and I think when we first met, when you came for a tour of the shelter, you said, I've driven by here so many times and it seems so big and shiny.
Yeah.
And it's a cool building. It is big and shiny, but it's also approachable.
Yeah.
Like, the services we're offering are approachable. And that's really something that we've worked on. It's hard because sometimes I want to say me and sometimes I want to say we, because really I'm doing it for an organization. There's 42 employees there that are all working towards the same goal.
Oh, that's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people.
Yeah,
we
doctor,
have
right.
We have a full-time vet. We have a full-time veterinary staff. We have a front-end staff. We have people who take care of the animals every day. Like, it's such a multifaceted organization.
And what does your job entail?
I think a little bit of everything.
Of everything, right? Yeah, because you're in there, you're elbows deep with everybody, helping them, even walking the dogs and stuff.
Yeah, I think if you can't understand what you're if you're not knees deep in what you're marketing, then you're probably not getting it.
Yeah.
You have to get it to speak about it.
Right. I agree with you.
Yeah, and with animals especially, the one amazing thing is that you definitely don't have a good day every day. And you definitely don't get along with everyone every day. But at the end of the day, everyone in that place is doing what they're doing for the same reason.
Yeah.
Like, we are helping animals first and foremost. We're finding them homes. We're making sure they're healthy. And then we're also helping the community so that it helps the animals of the community.
Right.
Like, there's definitely a human piece to it.
Definitely, especially because a lot of these animals come from homes that can't take care of them anymore.
Yeah.
So we have to bridge that gap of like misunderstanding or misinformation to have people relate to other people that can't take care of them, so that they might step in and take care of some animals.
Totally hitting the nail on the head.
Yeah.
I think one of the big shifts we've really really tried to make over the past few years especially is that I think one of the biggest misnomers is like everyone's very critical.
Yeah.
And the internet makes people even more critical. And you see all of these people, if I post an animal or say, the family could no longer keep it, or they moved somewhere that had a restriction that prevented them from keeping their animal, you have this gravy train of people being like, I'd live in a car before I gave up my dog. But there's so much more to it than that. That person was crying at the intake window giving up their animal.
Yeah.
That person had to make this choice. This person couldn't live in their car because they had kids, and I think when you start taking into account that there's more to the story than they just couldn't keep their animal, you really you strive to make it so that doesn't happen, right?
You were giving me a tour, and there's these rows of dogs, and some of these dogs, you were kind of giving me their backstory, and some of these dogs are from people that just couldn't keep their dog, whether they're homeless or they just had a turn of events and kind of took their dog away from them.
I mean, I think things happen, and I don't always have the most compassion for people. I think I definitely relate to animals better.
Okay.
But this job, and I was in rescue before I got to Palm Springs Animal Shelter. That was the one good thing I took out of the South, was getting into the world of animal rescue. And I think you have to strip away that, humans aren't trying to do the worst. And there are bad people. But for the most part, really, the humans have come around to loving their pets. Like, the dog isn't just something that's there.
It's part of the family.
Yeah. It's integrated in.
Before we get into more of the rescue part, because I really want to get into that, because you had a cool story about... Before we get into that,
that's okay.
I wanted to ask you about the shelter. When was it founded?
So the city of Palm Springs, it's a city of Palm Springs animal shelter. So Riverside County has their own shelters.
Okay.
It's a network of shelters, and that's controlled by the county. City of Palm Springs had a very old shelter that many people in Palm Springs, including many of the board members that still oversee our shelter, they helped to raise the funds to build a new shelter. I've seen pictures of the old one. It was a very classic animal shelter. Brick, cement, not a whole lot happening, for the mental well-being of the animals. And I believe they raised about $6 million to help fund this new building. And so in 2000, I think this is our 10-year anniversary.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So this year's our 10-year anniversary, which is super exciting.
Yeah, it's cool because I guess I'd like to point out that there's signs outside, right, by all the outdoor kennels where all the sponsors, right?
Yes.
So maybe we can advocate for more funds to go in and change,
for sure.
Put some money back into it and get some life back into the some young life back into volunteering into these shelters, because these animals need all the love that they can get.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of energy, right?
It does. I was exhausted by looking at there's so much commotion going on from the operating rooms to the dogs coming in, or the dogs they're getting like rehab, or they're in their own little things. You got cats over here. All the washing of all the sheets and the toys and the bowls and all the food is it's intense.
It's so funny. I gave another tour this past week,
Really?
and they were the person. And I guess when you work in it and you live in it and you're used to this, like I'm a little jaded. Like I'm used to that chaos, right?
Yeah.
It's like controlled chaos. And I guess when you're not used to that, and the smells, and you're smelling things, and they're not usual smells. It's like an animal shelter smell that I smell every day. And I walked him around, and he was like, my head's spinning. Like, there is so much going on here. And I was like, really?
It's like so many people are like crossing by and then behind you and doing all this stuff. The amount of food that goes out of there every day is incredible.
A lot.
Yeah.
And we buy our food. I think that's something that people don't realize is that, we buy all the food for our dogs is to keep them on dogs and cats, to keep the animals on a steady diet. So you deal with less GI issues. That's not really glamorous, but that's the truth. And then we actually take all the donated food that people drop off and we use that for a pet food bank. So to circle back to keeping pets in their homes.
Right on.
There's no reason that you should give up your pet because you can't feed it. That is such an easy fix, right? You have to identify these easy fixes in your community to keep animals out of the shelter.
There's a lot of voluntary like people dropping off food.
Yeah. I think that's actually like an indirect way to volunteer is if you work at a hotel in town, if you anywhere really, if you're a teacher, if you want to do a drive, like a sheet drive, a toy drive, it's so there's so many ways to help, and volunteering doesn't necessarily mean walking a dog or petting a cat. There's just indirect ways that you can help.
Yeah, that's
something
true. I think
in your community.
I think their light doesn't turn on because they don't know whether they're able to just put together some type of drive and like go and drop it off.
For sure, there's a big blue box right outside the front door, and you
saw
chuck
that.
it in that, and away you go. Like that's easy peasy.
It's like blankets, food, anything that's like toys.
Yeah, anything you can think of. Chewy, the big pet Amazon kind of. They have a really great program that if you order the wrong thing or your pet doesn't like your food that you ordered, they say bring it to the nearest shelter. So if that ever happens, just drop it in the box, and we see so many donations that way, and we appreciate big companies that recognize the need of smaller, the little guy. Like they're not, big corporations not ideal, but it's so great that big corporations are at least trying, right? We'll take every win we can get, and we get a lot of donations that way too. So there's just so many different things.
Do vets go in and donate their time too, or?
Yeah, we mostly pay our vets. So we want to pay the people that need to be paid. So, you're a veterinarian. You have gone to medical school, basically. There's actually a veterinary shortage. So anyone that is thinking of going into the veterinary field, like hands down, do it. We can never have enough vets that want to help us, but also we'll do. I talked to you about trap, neuter, return. So with the
I was about to ask you that.
The community cats, it's hot in the desert. Cats multiply here. They have tons of babies, and I'm sure everyone that has lived here long enough has seen the number of cats.
All over the place.
All over the place. I have not experienced this before because I'm from the north, and this was just not something I knew existed. So I've learned a lot about it since being at the shelter, and it's a humongous program. We got a really amazing grant about 4 or 5 years ago that helped us really spearhead an initiative to get this problem under control, because it is an overpopulation problem, and cats are hunters, and if they're surviving in the wild, they're really going after that indigenous wildlife. And
they can kind of devastate some type of if community.
The colony gets big enough. Yeah, totally. And that's not what we want. So
how do you guys keep track of the cat? Do you guys tag them or anything?
So if you now look at the cats that you see out and about, if they're missing a little piece of their ear, the top tip of their ear, that's actually an international sign of the cat has been through a TNR program.
Okay.
So they can no longer have babies.
So
or
what's a TNI?
trap, neuter, release.
Oh, okay.
So
TNR.
yeah,
Oh.
TNR.
Uh-huh.
So we have people who grab traps on a
Mm-hmm.
Friday, and they're humane traps. You put some food in it, the cat goes in, the thing slams, it's stuck,
Mm-hmm.
and they bring the cat in on a Friday night. We number all the cages. It's like an assembly line, like at a factory, and it's wild. Like they do 50 cats a weekend consistently.
Jesus.
So
From all over the valley.
from all over the valley. They go out to Indio, they go out to Coachella.
So your jurisdiction doesn't just stay within Palm Springs. It's all Riverside County.
Well, certain things.
Okay.
So like the TNR program, we definitely have the capacity and the system in place to service that need.
Okay.
So we work with trappers across the valley, and so that does kind of spread the valley. But in theory, and in our ordinances, we should only take animals from Palm Springs. We have gotten better about our adoption numbers. We've gotten better about reuniting stray animals with their owners.
So is there other shelters around here in the desert? Like every city has a shelter?
Not every city. For the most part, you're going to go to Coachella Valley Animal Campus, which is in Thousand Palms.
Okay.
Right next to Animal Samaritans, which is...
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So
It's
that's...
right up where the industrial center is.
Yeah, so there are shelters there as well. They're definitely a higher volume. It's... I don't like saying it's a kill shelter because it's not. They are doing their best to place animals with rescues to not have to do that. And actually the TNR program has really helped their live release numbers is what it's called. Feral cats can't be adopted out. They're wild. If you've run into a feral cat, you're like, no thanks. But they're an amazing animal in and of themselves. And
in the right environment, they do their part right within the ecosystem.
Totally.
Like if I had some cats here, I'd take care of some squirrels, right?
You take care of some squirrels, some mice, some rats. Like they're working animals.
Yeah.
Like they're working to live. They're not looking for your affection. They're living.
Yeah.
Living out.
Where's the biggest amount of cats like out here like that are like you have a cat problem?
I don't know if it's necessarily like a central location as much as it's like we've done really great work in the Santiago mobile home park.
Okay.
We've worked a lot with their residents, and
did they have an overflow?
For sure. A lot of mobile home parks do. Just because 2 cats turns into 6, turns into like
Quick.
36. Yeah.
Because they never stop, right? They're
right.
like bunnies.
Right. And it's like 3 times a year they can have a litter. So if you're having an average of 6 3 times a year, 1 cat can just, it's taken off. So we've worked really hard to kind of get that under control. And we have volunteers who go and feed the feral cats at that mobile home community every night of the week.
How many cats do you guys do a year, estimate?
We do about 50.
50,000?
No, 50 a weekend.
50. Oh, okay.
So if there's
So
52 weeks in the year, I'm
Yeah.
not a good math. I'm
Yeah.
not good at math, so I'm not going to throw a number out. We've spayed and neutered and released over 10,000, way over 10,000 cats into the community since we got that grant about 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh, wow.
We're probably closer to like 15,000. I would venture to say about 15,000 now.
Okay.
Yeah. So
it's still a lot of cats.
it's a lot. Yeah, and to get a feral cat population under control, it's like something like 80% have to be fixed. So you really need to work at it.
Yeah, just have a whole team running around.
But again, that's somewhere to volunteer, right? Like, I guess it's a lot of people are like, well, I don't have a lot of time. And setting up a trap, like you identifying where there's a cat that doesn't have an ear tip and coming and grabbing a trap from us and setting it up and bringing in, you could totally do that. And you're helping us. Like, we don't have enough hands-on people to be like setting traps all over the Coachella Valley. So if you identify these problems, like, we're here to help you. And I think that's what I've been trying to get through our social media and through the website and just into the community is that like the Palm Springs Animal Shelter is here to help not just the people of Palm Springs, but really the pets and people of the Coachella Valley.
So as you walk into the shelter, your office is directly to as you straight ahead, right?
I'm in the store.
Oh yeah, for sure. You are in the store. So people can go in there and chop it up with you and talk about all this stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I love talking to new people. I think that's why I've done okay moving so much.
Yeah.
Because it's hard, you guys have like locals, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up, like, I went from never moving to moving tons. And I grew up in the same house in the same town for 20 years or 19 years in New York. I knew everyone. I went to school with people from kindergarten through 12th grade. Then I went to college and they were there too. Like, I totally get local.
Yeah.
And I love local. But like, I don't need to be the local, but like, I want to be in with the locals, and I want to understand your local community because it's strong and it's like cool. And
thank you. Yeah, we try to make it so that everybody's striving for to be better.
Yeah.
If we're always calling each other out to like step up their game
That's
and
good.
stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really nice, and you were dropping names the other day, and I was like, oh, you are on game.
Well, I think that's like the consummate like marketer / fundraiser,
right.
And I learned that in college. Is like I didn't live on campus, so I had to get to know people to understand the culture of the campus, and I had to get to know the people in my class. Like, I couldn't just sit there listening to the professor. Like, I needed to like spark up a conversation 5 minutes before class to like kind of get the vibe and like understand people. So
I get you.
Same thing with working at the museum. Like, these were definitely an older crowd with a ton of money, and that wasn't me at 21. It's still not me. But at 21, like, what did I have in relation with, Mrs. Smith, who has a gajillion dollars and is like, here's my check, could you file it? And I was like, sure. So you have to like you gotta like find that level. And
but I think you're experienced enough to like dance with everybody. I guess that's, for lack of a better word.
I'm not a great dancer, but no, I like eating at local places and meeting people like you, because you're trying to do like good things in your community.
Thank you.
Like,
I am.
Yeah, and I think
and so
everyone,
are you. So you're playing your part.
Trying.
And I'm trying to highlight that. And this is a horrible transition, but we were talking about rescue, and you were talking about the parks, the trailer parks, and I wanted to go into that story about the dogs, where the dog had a litter underneath what was it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that kind of like stuck with me, because you did a lot of rescue for a while, right? Where was this at?
So when I was in North Carolina, I was kind of not working at a job I liked, not really doing anything I liked.
Yeah.
I'm not a beach person. Like, I'd go to the beach for 10 minutes.
So North Carolina, there's on the East Coast, there's a beach?
Yeah, the whole
side,
coast,
right? Yeah,
right?
the whole coast.
So we were out by a beach called Topsail Island. It's a 26-mile long barrier island.
Is that a cold beach? Like
it's beautiful.
Yeah?
Honestly, man. USA top 10 beach.
Really?
It's so beautiful.
And you're not a beach person?
No, I was like, I mean, I get the beauty of it.
Is it because it's salty or
like
humid?
There's a lot of sand, humidity. It's like, and then, my husband's from Florida, and he's a total beach person. So I'm like, oh, I'm hot. Can we go? Like, I don't know. It's just, but whatever, it worked. So, that being, I didn't want to learn to surf. I learned to paddleboard. Like, I found the things that I liked, but it wasn't like speaking to me. And so I moved out in with my then boyfriend, and I had a Bernese Mountain Dog, like this beautiful purebred show dog. He was a show dog, and that was my deal with my parents, is that really was my dog. And I went back up to New York from North Carolina, grabbed him and brought him back. And I said, this is the package deal. And they don't live very long. Yeah. So when he passed away, or I rescued my first dog like 2 years after moving down there. And in New York, you didn't really have to rescue dogs. There weren't shelters, there weren't pounds, there weren't rescues. You bought your dog. And then I moved down there, and there were just the treatment of animals is a lot different in the South. They're very much property. There's hunting dogs. Never knew what a hunting dog was. There's hunting dogs. They're living out in pens in the backyard, so many of them, but there's a lot of ticks and a lot of fleas and a lot of things. And so the shelters are totally overrun. And so I rescued a dog. I rescued a cute little lab mix, and it was great. And that was kind of my first step into it. And then
So you went in and you did the whole walkthrough, and
I actually got him from a rescue, and I met them in a Petco parking lot.
Oh, really?
And they said, "Here's your dog." And I went, "Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you later." So I got him, and he was great. And then my big dog passed away, and that was heartbreaking. And my other dog was actually depressed. So I said, I'm not ready to get a new dog, to adopt a new dog. Maybe I can foster.
Okay.
So I started fostering dogs.
Is that a possibility here too?
For sure.
Yeah?
Yeah, we have a full foster program. A lot of times it's kittens and puppies, which not a bad gig, right? And it's free. We provide you with everything: the food, the litter, the whatever they need.
Right.
The medical care. You bring it in, we take
really
care
cool.
of it. Yeah. So it's for sure an option here too.
So you went and you got your foster dog. Did they give you the same, like ability to do all that?
No, it was such a learning curve. And I think
okay.
that's what the South provided me, was this learning curve. I got it from someone. It was a Facebook thing. They were like, "This dog's going to the kill shelter if someone doesn't foster it tonight." So I was like, okay. So I met someone in another parking lot, grabbed that dog. Its name was Sweet Pea. And it was pit bull. And it was the cutest. It had fleas. I had to take it to my vet. They weren't giving me support. They didn't really tell me a whole lot about her, but she was great. And one of my friends from New York was like, "Hey, I want that dog. That's my dog." And I was like, "Cool." I actually had a neighbor that was going to New York, sent her up. And I was like, wow, I did such a good thing.
Hey, that was like their first time doing that.
Yeah, and it felt good letting her go, which I think is what worries people the most. But I was like, I found her a good home. But then 2 weeks later, she kind of ate their cat. And I was like, oh, shit. I'm 12 hours away. So
Hey, but she said that was her dog, so
well, so my dad and my brother went and grabbed the dog because they were like, we can't keep her.
Oh man.
So I was like, oh God, this is bad. And this is where I started learning.
Okay.
I had no support. Like, they didn't tell me she didn't like cats. I didn't know she didn't like cats because I don't have cats. So my brother actually wound up adopting her, and he still has her. Her name's Lola now.
Oh, nice.
But that was step one of like learning and getting into the field. And then I found a better organization, and they had their shit together.
Okay.
And I was like, oh my God, this is how like things should work. And that was like what opened my eyes. And in North Carolina, I was driving and doing dog assessments and pulling animals off of tables that were about to be euthanized. And like the South is some like real deal, like animal welfare, like a little more like is a little more nitty gritty. And so I really learned a lot through that pit bull rescue. Like I learned a lot about dogs. I learned a lot about them being individuals, just like people.
Okay.
I learned a lot about like what to look for when you're matching animals with a new home.
Yeah, because that's very important, right?
For
you
sure.
You can't just be like, oh yeah, here's a 100-pound dog for like a 90-year-old lady. Like,
right.
Can't be doing that.
And I mean, you can, but it's not going to work out well, right?
Yeah, someone's gonna have a broken hip.
Right. So I think it's a lot about like people think they know what they want, and that's where I kind of use my marketing brain, and it's convincing people to like trust you as the expert.
Yeah, just like a designer, when people are like, hey, I want this, and I'm like, what? Let me draw something up for you, and then they're like, this is exactly what I wanted. And I'm like,
and it's exactly the opposite of what they asked for. Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. You're completely right.
So I think being there taught me how to like own the knowledge, own the experience, and take it with you.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's how I got into rescue. And then when I got here, I was helping with photo shoots and walking dogs, because that's where I fit in at first when I started volunteering at Palm Springs Animal Shelter. And, shelters are different than rescues. And I didn't really have my feet in the shelter world yet. So I wanted to learn first.
So what's the difference between both of them?
So a rescue is run by people like you and me. Like we could start a rescue, and we could pull animals out of a shelter. So like LA still has really high euthanasia rates, or down by Calexico. Really high euthanasia rates, really high stray rates. So it's identifying places where you want to help and you start pulling those animals out of those shelters, which so you're giving you take one out, you're freeing up a space for another.
Oh.
So it's kind of you're saving two dogs, and then you find it a home, and now you're so here's one, now you get another. So it's this like round robin, kind of self-feeding system, which is great. So I had to kind of get used to how a shelter operates. You know, they had like you said, we have a full medical team. There's processes and procedures and best practices, shelter best practices that when I was at the rescue, we were foster based. So there was no building. We just had people who opened their homes to animals across the state.
Dang.
So it's totally different. So I spent, you know, from the end of 2017 until through 2018 kind of learning about Palm Springs Animal Shelter and what they were doing and what their goals were and how I could help and keep helping different ways. And eventually they hired on a new executive director who really had a vision and was working really well with our board of directors, and
that was in sync with what you wanted to do.
Yeah. And I think that's important. I also really liked that the president of the board was a woman, and they just hired on a female executive director.
Nice.
And our development director was a woman, and I just thought that was cool. Like you don't always get to work for really like-minded, powerful women.
Yeah.
So that drew me to it, and I think it was me volunteering there was just as much me kind of auditioning for them as it gave me the opportunity to like scope them out.
Okay. So it's a mutual thing.
Yeah, for sure. And then kind of everything lined up at the right place in the right time, and I was able to apply and be hired. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I think what I really admire about what like about you is sharing knowledge. Like you have right now, you drop so much information, but you don't shy away from it. And one of the things that I've been learning a lot about this podcast is like, if I hold on to knowledge, it just stays with me, and it doesn't really help anybody because it's not going anywhere.
Right.
And so with this podcast, it's like we're kind of amplifying your voice and getting people to just to hear some things that are like, for instance, the whole like, oh, you can go get a cage and catch a cat. Like, I didn't know that.
Right.
And maybe our listeners gonna be like, oh shoot, like I'm gonna go do that or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go donate some food.
Yeah. I think that at least for our age, right? Like I grew up and my grandpa donated blood every week. Like,
really?
And that always stuck in my head that he made that commitment weekly to do something for someone else.
Yeah.
And so I always looked at volunteering as something that you should do.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that our generation, like, it's not our parents' generation that could buy a house and, you know, work the one job and the wife stays home and brings up the kids. Like, we're busting our asses.
Yeah, we're working 2 jobs.
Yeah. And
Both.
I always did.
Yeah.
I was always working 2 jobs. This is the first time at almost 34 that I haven't worked 2 jobs. And I've made a priority to find time to volunteer.
Nice.
And it was not a ton of hours a week. Like when I was volunteering at the shelter, it was maybe once a week if they needed to do a photo shoot.
Yeah.
And it was like 2 hours a week to walk dogs.
Okay.
So it wasn't a huge amount of time. And I think people shy away from it. Not just our place. There's so many places to volunteer across the Coachella Valley. Like it's actually Palm Springs itself is one of the most philanthropic cities in the country.
Yeah.
And you were talking about CV Care, and I just feel like I find Food Bank. Like there's just all of these places doing big things. And if you can find 2 to 3 hours a week, like get off Instagram or stop watching TikTok, or like that sounds so old person of me, but it's true. It's prioritizing your time to do something better. And I always found that when I hated my job, when I wasn't happy, I could volunteer, and that was what I wanted to do. Like that was the one thing that I got to pick. They weren't paying me to be there, but like it was of my own accord that I got to go there and do what I wanted.
It's very fulfilling. Like it's very self like it's very healthy to give back.
Yeah.
Like, makes you feel good.
It's selfish and not selfish all at the same time.
It is.
Right?
It is. It's like sometimes I'm like, what am I doing? When I'm doing these podcasts, I'm like, is this for myself or is this for the listener? Like, cause I get so much. Like, I'm learning so much
Yeah.
from just sitting here, and I'm gaining like a friendship, just camaraderie.
Yeah.
Like, it's super super cool.
Probably not one or the other, right?
Yeah.
I think we can make it okay for it to be both.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm totally fine with it being selfish because I was here and didn't have any friends, and like I found that like companionship through the animals that I was helping, but also I was helping them. Like, they needed me. They needed me just as much as I needed them.
The only reason it works is because it's a positive thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it wasn't, it just completely
Totally.
not work. When you do things for the right intentions, they tend to work out almost 100% of the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So I think that's something for people to consider.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to be at Palm Springs Animal Shelter. It can be anywhere. Just
Exactly.
and I found that rescue kind of helped me narrow down my passion. Like, in a million years, if I asked 20-year-old Catie, where would you be, 12, 13 years from now, I would never have said working at an animal shelter, because that just wasn't it. But through kind of identifying what makes me happy through the volunteer work that I did, I was able, not manifest it, but I was able to narrow down like what jobs I didn't want, right?
So right now, you would you say you're in what's your passion, or maybe there's something that if you want to share with us what your next move is?
I don't know.
Because right now you're in a sweet spot.
For sure.
But do you see like something in the near future for you?
Well, I'm always moving, right?
Right.
So I'm here probably for another year and a half, 2 years.
Okay.
Like, there's always a ticking time. I always have this like weird ticking time of like, how long are you going to be somewhere? So I'm taking, I think selfishly, I take everything I can from the place I'm given for that period of time.
That's a great insight, because the way you have it set up is like it's a death, basically.
Yeah.
So if you think about it that way, you're gonna shoot and strive to do as much as you can with a little bit of time that you have, and that's a great way to live and think.
You have to do it fast.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't have time to like hang around.
Would you think it's a little stressful, or just conquering that whole mentality? Because I'm in that same position. Like, my daughter's coming in September, so I have less than a month to kind of just be like, all right, I'm going to unplug and I'm going to focus on this. But the whole time ramping up to this point in time, I've been doing so much and stuff that I would be like, nah, you wouldn't be able to do that. If somebody told me, hey, you did this, or you're going to do this, and that, I'm like, no way. I can't find the time. I wouldn't be, because I work 2 jobs and do all this other stuff. And I'm just like, nah. But if you put yourself and your mind into it, you can do it.
You can get it done.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if it's the New Yorker in me and like that, like.
Because out here in Cali, we're kind of Pacific. We're very relaxed.
Real laid back.
Very chill,
And I'm like 1,000 miles per hour all the
Right.
time. Like, the minute my eyes open in the morning, my feet hit the ground, I'm like going. Like, it's hard for me to relax. And maybe that helps me with the situation I'm in, because I want to like, and I think that's how I find my way into communities, because I want to experience your community.
Yeah.
Right. Like, if I don't do it now, I might be gone soon.
Yeah.
And then it's like,
you didn't
like
get any
FOMO,
fruit.
right?
Yeah.
So I think it's just making the best use of my time that I have. And then like, I like that you said it's like a death, because I very much like move on from places. I'm not great at
Me too. I graduated Cal State Fullerton, and I don't miss it one bit. I just started thinking about it because of the art show that I did, and I was kind of thinking, what can I do to like incorporate what I learned in school? But the people, the places, like such a commuter city for me, I was like, I'm like completely high school, all the other jobs that I've had, like it's like stages of your life, and I keep changing that chapter and keep moving forward. And right now, this is what's like my chapter, and like you're a part of it, so it's kind of, it's really cool.
Yeah, people come in and out, right?
Yeah.
I think I think social media, which is so funny because that's what I do, and I love it so
Oh yeah,
much.
let's talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, I love it so much for what it does
Right.
for an organization, but personally, I don't have any social media. I don't have a Facebook. I only have a Facebook to control the animal
Yeah.
shelter's Facebook. I don't have an Instagram. Like, I really make a conscious effort not to let it consume too much of my life because it is all consuming, and that's how it's designed.
You're pretty busy though too, like the stuff that you do every day and the things that you do, like you want to be in the moment. You want to be, your job consists of that.
Yeah.
You don't want to just also do that for your like just killing time,
Yeah, and I consider myself like an artistic person. And it could feed me in a different way, like having one for myself, but I don't have the time for it. Like I said, like I made time to prioritize and volunteer. I don't want to make the time and prioritize and make that part of my life, I guess.
Maybe down the road when if you're in a different environment
For sure.
and you need to connect with,
I definitely use it like as a tool to
it's
find
always a
places.
tool. It should only be used as a tool.
And I think I use it more as a tool. I don't use it as this place to like find friends. I think that's I know people have like they join groups and they DM each other, and I'm just like, I was just saying that I stopped at the Morongo Fruit Market because
yeah, you shook their hand. You didn't follow them on Instagram.
Yeah, well, and I did, and I actually did.
No, but I'm saying it's like you go above and beyond to like actually meet the person.
Yeah, I feel like I'm contradicting myself because I did reach out to them because the shelter because the shelter was doing a silent auction. I thought, how cool would it be if they, had the means to donate to the auction? But I wanted to make sure like they know who I am, and it's not a floating head. And I think the world is so full of like virtual floating heads that it means a lot to like sit down and look at someone and talk to them.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I can tell that you do this on a daily. Like you talk to people. You have that skill, and it's very sharp. And you're very witty, and you have you have something to talk about. You have substance. There's substance about you. So for sure. And you used it as a tool. Reaching out to the market, it was a tool. To get something out of something. People are like trees. People have hanging fruit, low hanging fruit, or high hanging fruit. And sometimes you have to work hard to get substance from them. And some people just don't have the fruit. And when you talk to them in person, you can kind of tell like what.
Yeah, and I think that's how you build your tribe, right?
Right.
Like that's how you figure out like and again, it may not be forever, but like if you can help each other in that moment get somewhere greater.
Right.
And I think that's how I look at the shelter too. Like, just to bring it full circle is that, we can grow bigger and offer more to people. And I think, and make sure people understand that and know that, and we're here for them. Like, it's such a place to be like, we are here for you.
Right.
Use us. Like, find the fruit that we have for you.
Exactly.
Kind of thing.
So right now in the summer, it's very hot, and we have a lot of poor dogs and cats out there. What can people do? Not just walking dogs or coming in and, petting them or spending time with them, but what else can they do during the summer to help these dogs?
So
these cats, because it's just cats and dogs, right?
Yeah. Well, we have like 4 guinea pigs right now, which a personal favorite. Like I had guinea pigs when I was younger, and they come in. I'm like, it's like very nostalgic to have those weird little rodents. But we get snakes sometimes. We get birds a lot.
Okay.
So we do have different things. You just have to keep your eyes peeled, on our social media. No.
Right.
But things you can do. I mean, if you're not like. If you don't want to be walking the dogs or petting the cats or whatever.
But there's certain times that because it's so hot right now, you can't really just go put the dogs in pavement, right?
Right. Yeah. So we definitely keep them earlier in the morning. Volunteers come in to help walk them and socialize them, and then later.
Like how early can somebody go in?
Like 7 a.m.
It gets pretty hot, right?
Yeah, we start at 7 and we cut walk shorter, and we have a couple big yards that we have kiddie pools set up in.
Okay.
We've raised funds to line misters, like industrial misters, so that keeps the yards cooler and tolerable. You do your best, but big picture, the animals are still in this confined space for like 23 hours a day. Jeez. So I think like volunteer wise, we need people to process adoptions. Like if you don't want to be like hands on with the animals, there's a lot of other stuff to do.
Paperwork and stuff.
There's like this whole, I mean, you saw it, there's like a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of logistical stuff that goes along with that. So if you are not like the biggest animal person, but you do maybe
you guys have millions of charts all over the place on
there's a lot of
this dog's coming in and this one's next and this.
And then, you know, even beyond just the charts that are on the walls, there's the back end, data keeping systems. And if you're in nursing school or you're interested in medical, you know, we need people to help sterilize instruments so we can do surgeries every day.
Yeah.
There's so many. We need people to do our kitchen and laundry stuff. If you are bored and you have an hour in the day or half an hour in the day, if we have 300 animals in that shelter, it's 300 dishes in the morning and 300 dishes at night that obviously our staff takes care of. But could we use a helping hand? 100%.
Yeah, most definitely.
So
the space right now, it's all restrictions are off from the COVID because you guys were closed just recently, right?
We were closed for the whole year. So that was really interesting too, is that we're very used to having the 40 people on staff are very used to the helping hands of our volunteers. So them supporting us with the everyday stuff.
Yeah.
And for a year plus, we closed our doors and they were locked and we couldn't have any volunteers in. And we went from really, then we kind of figured out, well, what volunteers are really like those essential ones that really staff can't tackle this many animals, and it was our medical recovery volunteers who are really amazing humans who used to be vet techs and nurses, and now they help animals recover from their surgeries. And our dog walkers really big time because we had so many animals and then not a lot of animal. It was a roller coaster. Every day's a roller coaster, right? So we ebbed and flowed with what we identified as essential. But thankfully, now that everything's lifted, like our masks are off, we can smile at people again. Yeah, you can breathe again. That was the other thing is we had masks on 8 hours a day. And like, I feel for those healthcare workers. Like that was really like, it made it, as much as you're making people connect with animals, you also need to connect with that person and those people the few people that could walk in the door if they had an adoption appointment. Like it was hard because you want to welcome them with a smile and like set that stage, and you couldn't.
Yeah, I can relate to you because I work at a school and kids are wearing masks. We're still wearing masks. It's kind of difficult when you want to you smile at a kid and it's like no reaction because kids like, what's this guy looking at me for, It's like, hey, I'm happy to see you, you're finally back, like you're the reason why we're here. It's kind of weird.
It's really weird. And that's human connection. Like that's, you're smiling, like you want to show someone you're happy.
Like, and I learned how to smile with my eyes now.
I felt very like America's Next Top Model Tyra Banks status, how she's like smiles, and I'm thinking, oh, lessons learned when I was like 12, right? So I was definitely like making the effort. But even our adoption pictures, it was like, you want to take a picture of these people who are so happy they just got their animal and their face is like 3/4 covered and you can't tell how happy they are. So I think it's turned a corner, and I'm happy that it has.
I'm glad it has, and I'm glad that they have you there for as long as you're there.
Yeah.
And you keep advocating for them.
Yeah, for sure. And hopefully more people come in and help us. And
I hope people get inspired by this conversation we're having. I'm gonna try to do my best to push it out as much as I can. I think I have 3 dogs, so it's like I feel for them. It's hot, and it's kind of something that if you have a dog and you don't take care of them, like that's not right.
It's not great. It's not ideal, but we're also here to learn, right? And if they pick up something from this or something anywhere on the internet, like animal welfare has grown into this industry where you can spread good news through animals. And that's helped people want to adopt animals instead of buying them from a breeder or getting their animals fixed so they can't have puppies accidentally or kittens accidentally. And I think watching through the internet and through social media, you can kind of find your way and do better by your pets. I'm not the perfect pet owner. No one's the perfect pet owner. So, anybody. Yeah.
When the dogs go into the shelter and they have, this is just my own personal question. They go in there and they have medical issues. What kind of procedures do you guys do?
Every and all.
Yeah.
That's a big part of my job is when an animal comes in and they're hurt or they got hit by a car or their owner didn't have the money to fix the knee that is broken or whatever the case may be, we have funds for that. We specifically fundraise for that. So it's my job to kind of understand that situation and draft a story and run it by my boss and make sure that people understand that life isn't ideal and your money doesn't just poof go, it goes somewhere.
Yeah.
It goes to a specific animal that you are helping. And so those stories raise us thousands of dollars. And I don't think without social media we could do that. I mean, we could. It would just be so much harder.
Yeah.
Like snail mail.
Yeah.
Like stamps on letters, which we still utilize. But through Facebook and through Instagram, fundraising has just become this big picture of reaching outside of your immediate network. Like, it's not just people from Palm Springs donating to the Palm Springs Animal Shelter. They identify in the story that you write about that animal and the hardship that animal's going through and the procedures we have to provide. I mean, I've watched our vet at the shelter do open heart surgery, and on those tables that I showed you, like in the back of our shelter.
Just digging in.
Yeah. I mean,
crazy.
it's pretty incredible watching what can happen in a small space with just your two hands. Like, it's literally life-saving work. And I think sometimes you lose vision on that because you're in it every day.
Every day.
But when I talk to someone like you or talk to someone who's interested in becoming a donor or even a volunteer, it's re-explaining it and taking people on those tours. Like, it's life-saving work. So, that's what you're giving to. So if you don't have the time to volunteer and you want to throw $5, $5 makes a difference.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that Facebook has made really accessible, is that people can donate $5. Like, they can donate $5, they can donate $3, they can donate $1, and it's one click and it's easy. And that's kind of the good side of social media.
Yeah. Well, see, maybe we can transition into just closing it out and saying that you reached out to me, used social media through to contact me, and I mean, here we are. And I'm very, very, very glad that you did reach out to me, because I've always wanted to do something like this, but never really had the funds or the means to help out. But with this, maybe I can help, have other people kind of get inspired by
For
it.
sure. It's there's a reach.
Right.
And whether your reach is this big or this big, you don't know who it's going to touch. And I guess that's how I look at the posts that I make, is like, some days I'm more motivated than others, right? I'm a normal person.
You go hard some days.
There's like some animals I truly connect with, and I'm like, it is my sole mission in life to get this animal home. And then there's some I don't really connect with, and I'm like, what can I say about this cat or this dog to make them totally desirable to someone else who will make that connection with them? And I just want people to realize that, even if you share one of our posts, like once, that little bit can touch someone that I'm not able to touch. Like, it gets it out into a new sphere. And if you don't have time to volunteer, if you don't have the money to donate, sharing's free, right? Artists always say that, you can like my thing, you can comment on it, you can share it. And it's true. So
it's very true. With you saying art, what kind of art were you? Fine art? Were you?
I was like a fake artist. No, not really a fake artist, but I think I went to art management because I realized I didn't know what I had to say as an artist. I think I am an artistic person. I didn't really have a voice.
Well, what kind of art kind of calls you?
I loved ceramics. I like building stuff.
Nice.
But I'm one of those people that I look at things, like I'll see a pair of earrings in the store and I'm like, I could make that. Like, and then I make it and I'm like, check. So, I don't know if it's like,
right. Or you're like, I know how to do that. I'm just not going to do it.
I'm super unfocused.
I think it's nice to do things at least once, or try food or any kind of activity at least once. And if you like it, spend some more time into it. But I think that's what a artist, it's kind of like a curse of an artist, is that you just you get bored quick. Like, you find you solve I think we think like problem solving.
Yeah.
And like we solve it and we move on.
Yeah.
That's
It's
it.
like I said,
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know. It's like I have check boxes.
Right.
Yeah. And then
I-
I'm like, whoop.
I
All
agree
right,
with
moving
you.
on.
So here's one check that you just failed.
Oh,
So
no more podcasts ever
no,
again.
no. Yeah, I hope you do. I hope hey, you should even, do a little I don't know, weekly thing where you let people know like, hey guys, we have 80 something cats in here, like
Yeah.
come pick one up.
I do a Friday shelter tour on Facebook I do a
Oh,
Facebook
for
Live
real?
every Friday.
See, there you go.
So, but this is all stuff like I haven't done before, and I'll leave here thinking for the next week about, does the shelter need a podcast, and how could a podcast for the shelter affect it, and big picture, does that get people more into animal welfare and thinking bigger picture? And so
Right.
I'll have 3 million more check boxes to worry about now. Thank you,
Cool.
David.
You're welcome. No, that you did that because you reached out to me. But yeah, thank you very much for coming in.
No.
Anything else you'd wanna plug in, talk about, share, shout outs to whoever you want.
Yeah, find us
Yeah.
on social media, like the pages. Instagram's Palm Springs Animal Shelter. Facebook is Friends of Palm Springs Animal Shelter. It's under our nonprofit that helps fund us.
But more importantly, they can just go in.
You can just come in, come say hi.
Yeah.
I sit at a desk in the little shop, so
And
I'm
everybody's
easy to
super
find.
friendly there too. Like you were introducing me to a lot of your staff, and
Yeah.
they're all walking around
It's a lot of
with
locals.
a smile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So come see your locals at Palm Springs Animal Shelter. Yeah, no, I mean it's open door policy, so you don't have to come in only if you're looking to adopt. Like you can
Right.
come in
Yeah.
just to learn more and ask questions.
And you guys have a nice little shop there, right? You guys can
Yeah.
pick up like
grab some merch.
grab some merch.
Yeah.
I had one more thing. What is your hours? Like, what are your hours?
So we are open to the public. Weird hours. Monday, 11 to 5. Tuesdays we're closed for deep cleaning and admin stuff, so
Okay.
we can tone down the controlled chaos a little
Yeah.
on a Tuesday. Wednesday through Sunday. Wednesday is 11 to 5. Thursday we're open later, so people that have jobs can kind of access
okay.
it.
Nice.
So that's a 1 to 7. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday is 11 to 5.
All
It's
right.
all on our it's all on our Facebook, Instagram, and website.
Nice.
Because they're awkward. It's awkward to explain, but we try to be as accessible as possible. So
Sweet.
yeah, and hopefully in the future, the busier it gets, the more hours we add, where we really try to accommodate what we're seeing. So if we see that people need us to be open later, we want to be able to do that. Of course, it costs more money, and you have to evaluate all that stuff, but we're just trying to work with our community and with the people that come in, and that's not necessarily always during 11 to 5. So, and we're always open to feedback too. So if you have an idea, or you want to get involved with us, or you want to host an event that benefits us, or you just have an idea, like shoot us an email. All the emails are on our website. So it's a cool place that we're at right now. I think we're really evolving into something that can be just an even bigger part of the community than it already is, and provide more services and stuff like that. So
Right on. Thank you,
yeah.
Katie.
Thank you.
I really appreciate your
I
time.
appreciate you, and this is really fun.
We're out, guys.
Bye.
Bye.